So one really good example of how bad this can go is our third topic, which is about ChatGPT get rich quick schemes.
This
So
one pissed me off. I just read this. I was so annoyed when I read this article.
it does not sound fun to have to be on the receiving end of what we're about to talk about. So one example of what we're talking about here is the editors of Clarkesworld, which is a popular science fiction and fantasy fiction magazine that accepts short story submissions. They recently estimated that in February alone, 500 out of the 1,200 submissions of stories they received were AI generated by tools like ChatGPT. The problem got so bad, the magazine had to suspend the submission process entirely, which is literally how the magazine gets its content. Um, Now, what's really interesting here is the editors say that they suspect a new online trend was to blame. So there are internet scammers out there now selling get rich quick advice on how to use ChatGPT to churn out various types of content that makes money. And it's going far beyond submitting to a fiction magazine. There's similar advice out there on how to make a quick buck generating content in book publishing on Amazon, e-commerce, and YouTube. In fact, there are already 200 or so books on Amazon that now list ChatGPT as an author or a co-author. And I'm sure many, many more that have been created with it, but don't list it. So how big of a problem do you anticipate this being?
I think it's gonna be a huge problem. I mean, honestly, I think I read this on Saturday morning, and that's when I put it up on LinkedIn. And I immediately thought, wow, the Institute accepts submissions. I don't know if I want them anymore. Like, it was like immediately, and we don't get a ton because we don't promote the fact that we accept submissions that much, but we do get, I don't know, 5 to 10 a month or something like that. We have thought previously about scaling up our content through guest submissions because that's what a lot of institutes, media companies do is they get other people to write content for them. Maybe they pay them. A lot of times they don't. They just give them promotion on the platform to grow their personal brand. And we've thought about that strategy in the past, and I almost felt like that strategy died Saturday morning for me. It's like, oh my God, the thought of having to like sift through all these how to's and lists. And it's like, dude, you didn't even write this thing. Like, this is it. And then just the idea of having to go through that editor's going through of trying to even figure out, is this legit content? And again, not that AI generated content is bad or isn't valuable, but I've said before on this podcast, like I almost can't even look at the homepage or the For You page, whatever it is in Twitter, because every single thread is just like, obviously they just put in a prompt and they got this list of 10 things to know as an entrepreneur, 10 things with this. I was like, oh, like I just can't read that stuff anymore. Um, and so that was my first reaction is, wow, we're not expanding our submitted article ever because there's just no way to avoid this happening. And I think humans generally just ruin everything. Like marketers ruin good stuff. Like this is a very valuable, cool technology. And of course it was spun into this like scamming thing right away. So I think it's going to be widespread because people are generally lazy and like to find quick ways to make money. Um, and if there's a scheme to be had, they're going to have it. And, you know, I get it. Like I understand the money's there to be made and they're going to make it, but it doesn't mean I have to like it or agree with the approach. It's a very frustrating thing to see, honestly.
So if you're a brand that accepts submitted content today or relies on it for a significant part of your strategy, should you just be rethinking this entirely?
I would, I don't, I mean, you have to. I don't know how you can, like, unless you just don't care about the integrity of the brand and it's really just all a game of clicks and views and affiliate links. Like, I don't know. Like, I would be seriously if I again, we do have a site that does accept submissions, so I guess this applies to us. But yeah, if I was building a media company or a brand that was built upon submissions from third parties, I would at minimum revisit the process of who is allowed to submit. Like it seems like this site, I wasn't familiar with this site, but it seems like they basically accept from anyone and then the editor goes through. So, I mean, if you're accepting from a trusted group of writers and you have maybe your responsible AI policy is clear with them and they agree to that, maybe you update your terms of service of or terms of use where it's here's what we expect in terms of the use of AI within content you submit. Like at minimum, I'm updating our policies and making it clear our stance on, how AI writing tools should be used in the process. Because this isn't that undifferentiated, honestly, from the conversations we've had around higher education and whether or not students should be allowed to submit papers that are written by the AI.
Right.
It's like, I want to know that you actually thought this through and that you're recommending these 5 steps for building a more intelligent content strategy to our readers because you've actually done it for a living and you know what the hell you're talking about, not because you went in and figured out the 20 prompts to give ChatGPT and then prompted and here's the output. And in 10 seconds, you gave me these things that you have no idea what you're talking about. Like, I still think experience and critical thinking matter. And I want to know that if I'm getting strategic advice from someone that they've actually been through it and they can they can validate that what they're writing is real and valuable to the reader.
So, one thing that jumped out at me in this story is that the Clarkesworld editors mentioned that some of the ChatGPT detection software they were using was just absolutely terrible, in their opinion, at catching the AI generated content. So, as we're talking about this and our audience is thinking through, oh, well, maybe I could just use one of these tools. It doesn't sound like that's a consistent option.
Yeah, we've touched on that topic before on the show. I have yet to see any proof that those things are going to be usable at scale, that they're going to be reliable, that you're going to be able to make real business decisions, call someone out on, you used AI to write this. No, I didn't. Yeah, you did because we're 83% confident that you did. Like, I just don't see how that's going to work. And I get that everybody wants to build the magic tool for figuring out whether or not AI wrote the whole thing. But until someone shows me a tool that actually stands up to research and testing, and that is usable at like a professor level in college where you're going to accuse a student of submitting an AI written article that they didn't have anything to do with,
Hmm.
I haven't seen it yet. And we've checked out most of what's been out there. So, yeah, until there's some breakthrough in this space, which I don't anticipate, I don't know how those tools are going to be very helpful.